Hi everybody, Dan Illman here with the DRF race of the day for Monday, August the 5th. It's race number 6 at Assiniboia Downs. Let's take a look at the field for the $50,000 Manitoba Mile. It is Manitoba Derby Monday at Assiniboia Downs. Just a huge evening of racing. And remember, the 20-cent jackpot pick 5, comprising the last 5 races on the card. There is a mandatory payout in that pool. The carryover in the pool going into Monday night, over $444,000. Remember, that jackpot pick 5 pool 20-cent base wager has to be paid out on Monday, as does the Classic High 5. The pool for the Classic High 5, which is the Manitoba Derby later on in the card, over $20,000 carryover into the Classic High 5. Plus, the very popular $1 pick 4 wager. The last 4 races on the card, there is a $100,000 guaranteed pool in the pick 4, and the Manitoba Mile is smack dab in the middle of that jackpot pick 5 with the $444,000 carryover and the mandatory payout, and the dollar pick 4 with the $100,000 guaranteed pool. Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector for the Manitoba Mile. And it's expected to be hot. And when you have a horse like the number 7, Jeff Fafa, in the race, it's gotta be hot, because Jeff Fafa is a speed. He likes to hear his feet rattle. He goes as fast as he can for as far as he can go. And the 6 Brody Streak also has some early speed. Not sure he's as fast as Jeff Fafa. We saw that last time out when they faced each other in the RJ Spears going 7.5 furlongs. Jeff Fafa just had too much speed for Brody Streak, who sat in second. They went very fast. It set things up for a closer, and perhaps we'll see a similar situation unfold in this year's edition of the Manitoba Mile. We'll start things off with the number 1, Exacting, who's certainly one of the horses to beat. This one was the beaten favorite in his last 2 races, including the Spears. He ran pretty well in that race. There was a very fast pace. Exacting sat back. He made a nice move to just get up for second behind Blazing Bow. Another good performance for Exacting, who has run well in all 3 starts since shipping up to the Downs from the United States. Exacting draws a good inside post, could save valuable ground going into the first turn behind that hot pace, and I would expect this horse to give a good try with a late kick. He's 9-5 on the morning line. The 2 is Dino's Cape, and he's taking a big step up in class. Let's take a look at his most recent race. His first off of the claim. This is a 7,500 claiming event. I thought Dino's Cape looked very good. Now, he had everything his own way. He went to the lead. He won the race in the opening quarter mile. When he backed the pace down to a 25-second opening fraction, they went 49 and change to the half. And as you saw, Dino's Cape just sprinted on home in the stretch. Now, that trip is likely unavailable to Dino's Cape in this race. And it's possible he's just at his best when he gets to the lead and gets everything his own way. He did earn a solid 77 Beyer speed figure for that start, which is very competitive with these horses. He's won 13 times in his career. He's a hard hitter, maybe a little bit class compromised at this point, and he's likely to face just a completely different race shape than what he saw last time out. The 3 is Convention, who was second in the Manitoba Mile last year. I thought he ran really well in that race, because unlike this year's edition of the Manitoba Mile, I didn't think last year's running had a lot of pace, and Convention was forced to come from last. That's his running style. Unlike Jeff Fafa, Convention has no early speed whatsoever, but he was able to make up some ground to run second that day. Last time out in the Spears, I was a little bit disappointed. I know he was 40-1, but he got the setup he craves. He was at the back of the pack. The pace was hot. He could only pass some tired horses. Maybe getting out another half furlong will help Convention. Maybe you could use this horse underneath in single race exotics. Blazing Bow is the number 4, and it just looks like this lightly raced 4-year-old is coming into his own at the right time. I really liked his race sprinting 2 starts back, going 3/4 of a mile. It was a race that didn't have a lot of pace. Blazing Bow settled at the back, came with a really strong late run, and got up at the wire. And then in this race, the Spears last time out, he got a beautiful setup and a beautiful ride. He saved ground every step at the back. He got to the outside, turning into the stretch, and he comes with a really strong late run to beat 7 of the same horses he's going to face in the Manitoba Mile. There's a good chance he'll get up a setup again, and it looks like Blazing Bow is just coming into his own. The number 5 is Magic Tiger. This horse won 3 stakes at the Downs in 2023. The question is he as good now as he was at that point? He's already raced 3 3 times this year he hasn't been able to win. His last race was the Spears, and he got into a little bit of a jam on the second turn, but he didn't make much of an impression. And I think the question with Magic Tiger must be asked, is he as good? And I'm not sure if that's the case. I do think he gets a good setup. He certainly has back races good enough to win. For me, the 4-1 on the morning line is a little bit light. I would need more based on his current form. Brody's Streak is the number 6, and I think he's somewhat of a sleeper in here. The distance you might think is a bit of a question mark, but he won a couple of times at a mile way back in 2022 at Will Rogers Downs. Last time out, he was just caught up chasing that ridiculously hot pace set by Jeff Fafa, and then he got tired in the stretch. I thought he ran well 2 starts back. He finished a good second that day. He was down on the inside early, got out, was even in between horses. He earned a good Beyer speed figure in that sprint in 80. Brody's Streak, if he can just relax a little bit more off Jeff Fafa, he'll probably get first run at that horse. If Jeff Fafa gives way, Brody's Streak inherits the lead, but then here come the closers. Here's Jeff Fafa. Boy, is he fast, and he showed that off last time out in the Spears. He just blitzed right to the lead, and down the backstretch, you couldn't control him. He went the second quarter in 23-2, and that probably cooked his goose. But as you saw when we watched the replay with Blazing Bow, Jeff Fafa still had the lead at about the 8th pole before understandably tiring. If he gets loose and is somehow able to drop the anchor, which Timeform US doesn't believe is a possibility in this race, then Jeff Fafa does have the speed in the class to perhaps hold on and take this field a long, long way. Big Nick is up next, and he won the Manitoba Mile last year. He got a very good trip. He's a very tactical horse that can get those kind of trips. They tried to stretch him out a little bit farther in his 2 subsequent starts, and Magic Tiger was a little bit too good for him. And like Magic Tiger, the question has to be asked for Big Nick, is he as good this year as he was in 2023? I think the Spears was a race where Big Nick didn't run badly at all because he was relatively close to those hot fractions in the early stages, and then he tired, but it's not like he was giving way readily. He was still trying in the stretch. I think Big Nick's going to work out a good trip in this race again. That's what he does. He'll probably be sitting in the second flight or so, ready to make a good late kick, and maybe Big Nick is a price you might want to consider if you want to blow up some of these big guaranteed payouts and guaranteed pools. The 9 is Mr. K, and Mr. K, a 7-time winner, is 0 for 9 this year. They tried him in an allowance race after he ran in the Spears. He ran okay in the Spears, just kind of an even performance that day. Last time out in the allowance, going 3/4 of a mile, it didn't work out. To me, he's the kind of horse that really needs to run a career best Beyer speed figure if he's going to take this tough field down. Let's take a look at my top selections for the Manitoba Mile, and I just think that the 4 Blazing Bow's in form right now. He did get a great setup and a great trip last time out. I think another similar setup and trip is possible here. The pace should be hot. He's the 5-2 second choice on the morning line. As the second choice, I would consider playing him in here. I do think the 1's going to run a good race, perhaps getting the same trip as Blazing Bow did last time, saving ground behind a hot pace. And maybe the 2 horse is the kind of horse that can sort of sneak in there at a giant number. If he could repeat his last Beyer speed figure, and that's a big if because the pace scenario just looks completely different, then maybe you can get somewhere with him at a price. But I think Blazing Bow is the real deal, and I think he can make it 3 in a row in this year's edition of the Manitoba Mile on Manitoba Derby Monday at Assiniboia Downs. Just remember, 20-cent pick 5 jackpot, last 5 races, $444,000 carryover. It's got to go. Mandatory payout in the pool. Dollar pick 4, last 4 races, $100,000 guaranteed pool. Classic high 5 for the Manitoba Derby. $20,000 carryover into the Classic high 5. Got to go with that pool as well. Enjoy a great card at the Downs on Monday. Best of luck.